Hey everyone, today we're covering the GPD XP. The GPD XP marks GPD's return to Android handhelds following their GPD XD and XD Plus clamshell Android handhelds from a couple of years ago. The GPD XP comes with modest specs, well thought out controls, decent build quality and great battery life. I've mentioned it in quite a few reviews recently that my biggest frustration with some of these handhelds are the compromises that we have to put up with when we purchase them. And with that said, I've not had a handheld in quite a long time that comes with as many compromises as the GPD XP. That's not to say I don't like the GPD XP, but I've been on a journey to like it, and my feelings on it today are far, far better than what my first impressions were. In fact, I've had the GPD XP for many weeks and have attempted this review a couple of times before, and both times felt like I was being too unfair on the XP and started the review process again. I'll try my best to cover these frustrations over the course of this review, but ultimately it comes down to value for money, and I personally feel the GPD XP isn't worth anything over $250, and considering I've seen it sell for up to double that in some places from its initial release, the GPD XP can easily price itself out of a recommendation. The XP's most unconventional feature is its module controls. The right side of the control is able to swap between traditional controller and mobile game controller. The XP boasts a 6.81-inch 1080 by 2400p 10-point touchscreen, which is a very decent panel, although the super wide aspect ratio is a very bizarre choice in relation to retro gaming. My first impressions when gaming in terms of the super wide aspect ratio was really disappointing, but the more time I invested in setup, applying widescreen patches, using emulators with widescreen options and so on, the more I got out of it, and the more I became to actually like it. On the bottom left side of the screen you do have a hole punch camera, which is only ever going to be an annoyance, and the biggest downside of GPD's use of mobile parts here. The module controllers are novel, but honestly not something I'd really use long term. I would have used it if you could swap between the joystick's position from Xbox to PlayStation layout, but as it is, I'll likely stay in the traditional control setup for the duration of its life. The GPD have obviously relied on their build experience with the XP though, as the controls are comfortable, the screen mapping software is super easy to use, and dynamically updates according to the control module you're actually using. At first, the reach of the joysticks I found really off-putting. There's a huge amount of reach here, far greater than any other handheld I have, and it just felt weird for me initially. However, after a couple of weeks, I actually prefer them and can really feel the difference between swapping between retro handhelds. Especially in more recent games, the joysticks on the XP really come into their own, and the ergonomics of the whole handheld just work. The weight's really well balanced, the responsiveness of the controls are really good, and everything just feels right in the hands. There are clear annoyances with the controls though. For one, the lack of analog triggers is a glaring omission, especially considering how naturally suited the XP is for game streaming. And the D-pad's a bit too sensitive for me. The feel is great, it concaves naturally around the thumb, but there's just no flex in the membrane they're using, and it's too easy to accidentally hit multiple directions at once. It also holds inputs, so if you start pressing left and naturally move your thumb to the right without releasing any pressure, the XP will think you're pressing left, down, right and all the bottom diagonals simultaneously. I did get used to this, and it does work pretty well in the context of native Android gaming, but it's still annoying in retro gaming, and the XP wouldn't be my go-to for fighters because of this. In terms of power, I've been pleasantly surprised with the XP. I'll cut to gameplay shortly, but Saturn, Dreamcast and PSP play absolutely great. And using the MMJR2 builder Dolphin, I was able to get a lot better Gamecube performance out of the GPD XP than I was initially expecting. The XP really comes into its own for DS games due to the super wide screen, and I've really enjoyed playing through some DS games on it. Unfortunately, 3DS games are just way beyond this limit, but due to the amazing work gone into the new FSX2 emulator, you can even get some very limited PS2 emulation out of the GPD XP, which I just wasn't simply expecting, and is a very nice surprise. Naturally, you'll want to try and make the most out of the super wide aspect ratio of the screen, so I felt a lot better using widescreen variations of emulators where available. The GPD XP is also a great streaming device due to the comfortable controls and decent all-round ergonomics, let alone the mobile quality battery life that gets a good few hours out of heavy gaming. I'll cut to gameplay now and summarise up at the end.
Sorry, Chief. The mood around the big table had been kind of stuffy lately, so I had to play a joke before going crazy.
What do you mean, stuffy?
You were just transferred here a week ago, so you may not have noticed, but it's been especially stuffy lately. The Army people
yourself.
Thanks.
Capture the suspect.
This is an area where a lot of people lost their lives in battle. Look at all those twisted.
I guess it's your turn, Craig. All right, rookie. You have no chance taking them head on. Overdive to the enemy's blind spots and kill them all. If enemies are giving you trouble, go ahead and use crossfire. It'll make all nearby soldiers focus on the target you want them to take out.
An enemy!
It's time to retaliate.
So all in all, I actually learned to quite like the GPD XP, and it's certainly won me around the more time I've invested in it. That said, I was able to pick up the GPD XP over Black Friday for around $220 and feel that that's the tail end of what it's actually really worth. I've seen it being sold for up to $500, and at that price it's absolutely ridiculous. So although I personally feel I've got a good deal, I can only recommend the GPD XP under heavily discount or sale periods, and think GPD really mispriced it at launch. The GPD XP is a good companion device to a console or gaming PC with decent build quality, good control and pleasant all-round ergonomics. It also comes with a handful of negatives that diminish the overall experience, like its hole-punch camera, super wide aspect ratio, lack of analog triggers, and the unusual D-pad. Overall, if and only if you can find the GPD XP at a decent price, it might be worth the consideration. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.